Now I'm going to take you to this. Paul said this to the Romans, writing to the Romans in chapter 7. I do not understand what I do. So we're talking about, thinking before we are, thinking. What we are thinking. Metacognition. For what I want to do, I do not do. But what I hate, I do. You see, this is the struggle, isn't it? I mean, we've got the mind. He's talking about we have the mind of Christ. And if I do what I do not want to do, I agree that the law is good. Now, we all struggle with this. We end up doing things that we do not want to do. So if you're going to tell us to think before what we are thinking, would that be the cause of what he was trying to struggle with? And at the end of it, he says, but it is a sin living in me that makes me do what I hate to do. So how do we overcome this? Put it in the context of neuroscience. I mean, this is, we are reading scripture. And as a plastic surgeon myself with the mind of a science, and I read it and says, look, this is what I'm facing. What I do not want to do, I do.
Yep. Well, I think he was referring really to the fact that this side of heaven, we still deal with what is called the flesh. Some call it the sinful nature. We have this at the very point of salvation. We are renewed. The Spirit dwells in us, and we're given this new nature. But all those old patterns don't instantly go away. And this really relates to neuroplasticity. I use this illustration sometimes. Imagine I have a big cable here that has a lot of wires coming out. Okay? So you got this big giant cable, a bunch of wires out. And this represents, let's say, neurons. And there's a young girl who is growing up in a family where her father abuses her, mother's an alcoholic, and her father leaves. And so just imagine now twisting half of those neurons into I am ugly. And a quarter of those neurons, another quarter into I am worthless. And then the other quarter, some other negative thing. This is how her brain is wired. This is how she sees herself.
Right.
Okay, that's the flesh. That's the sinful nature. She unredeemed. She works at McDonald's, got a job at McDonald's. She meets a Christian girl, and this girl just befriends her. And she's never experienced this kind of love before. Somebody just loves her, just a friend. She wants to have her breaks with her. So she begins, just imagine one of those little wires is a neuron that reflects love. If she begins to spend more time with her, more of these neurons connect together. Well, she invites her to a Sunday school one day. And they go to Sunday school, and this youth teacher is teaching them about the love of God. And she can't believe it. So now more of this thinking, those old, I am ugly, I'm hateful, now is being rewired into, maybe there is something worthy in me. Then she comes to faith. There's an instant rewiring.
Right.
However, those old patterns, they don't instantly go away because we still live in this side of heaven. We still deal with that flesh, some of those old patterns. So I think that illustration kind of helps that neuroplasticity is a very spiritual process. It takes time. And sometimes we do lapse into those old ways because that flesh we still deal with. But as we grow in the Lord, those patterns, all that wiring of neurons, let's say, become less and less of an issue. And because we're now rewiring our brain, our thinking with virtue and character and godliness and those kind of things that honor God.